There was an old wooden chair by the front door. No one was sitting in it tonight. It just stood there next to the door, facing the street in the pale yellow light of the porch lamp. The paint on the armrests had come off in small pieces. The blue cushion was faded, worn in the middle exactly where someone had sat many, many times. James stood at the end of the front path. His bag was still in his hand. He had just come by taxi from the airport. He had traveled more than 700 miles to get here. And the first thing he saw, not the light in the living room window, not the sound of the television inside, not his father moving around the house, was that old wooden chair, empty, still. The cushion pressed down a little in the middle like someone had stood up from it not very long ago. James had seen this chair since he was a small boy. It was always there. He walked past it 1,000 times without thinking. But tonight, for the first time, he stopped and really looked at it. His full name was James Mitchell, 38 years old. He lived in Seattle, Washington. He worked as a civil engineer at a large company, roads, bridges, big projects. He left for work early. He sat in meetings until late. By the time he got back to his apartment on the 14th floor, it was already dark outside. He ate dinner standing in the kitchen, usually food he bought on the way home. Then he opened his laptop and worked 1 more hour before bed. He did this 5 days a week, sometimes 6. His father, Robert, lived alone in a small town called Millbrook in Montana, more than 700 miles from Seattle, 1 hour by plane, or 12 hours by car, through mountains and long empty roads. Robert had lived in Millbrook his whole life, born there, grew up there, worked as a carpenter there for 40 years, now retired, living alone in the same house where James grew up. James called home about once a month, sometimes less. His father always answered after 1 ring, not 2, 1. His father asked, "Are you doing well? How is work? Is it raining a lot in Seattle?" James answered, "I'm fine, Dad. Really busy, but fine. I'll call again soon and tell you more." His father said, "Okay, I understand. Go do your work, son." Always the same. "I understand. Go do your work." James believed him. He did not ask more. He did not know what his father ate each night. He did not know if his father had friends nearby. He did not know if his father slept well alone in that house, in a Montana winter cold enough to freeze the pipes under the floor. He did not know, because he never asked. Then 3 weeks ago, his phone rang at 8 in the evening. Not his father's number. It was Dorothy, his father's neighbor, 74 years old, who lived in the house across the street. Dorothy's voice was calm, but calm the way a person is calm when they have already decided what they need to say. She said, "James, your father fell in the bathroom this morning. I heard a noise and came over. He was on the floor. The doctor says nothing is broken, but James, he needs you to come home." James sat still for a moment after the call ended. He looked around his apartment. Laptop open on the desk. A cold cup of coffee on the table. The city lights far below the window. He bought a plane ticket the next morning. But James remembered Millbrook differently from how it looked now. Back then, the town felt bigger. Or maybe he was small and so everything seemed larger. The walk home from school was exactly 7 minutes he had walked it enough times to know. Past Mr. Harris's pharmacy, past the big oak tree at the corner of Clark Street, left turn onto the small dirt road, and then he could see the house. His father was always there, sitting in that wooden chair. In front of the door, he did not stand at the gate. He did not walk out to meet James on the road. He just sat in the chair, hands on his knees, looking toward the street, sometimes reading the newspaper, sometimes just sitting. But every afternoon, when James turned onto that dirt road, his father was already there. James remembered that feeling, seeing his father from far away and knowing his father was waiting. Nobody said it out loud, but James knew. His father worked as a carpenter. He came home every day at 5 in the afternoon, hands still smelling of wood and oil. He washed his hands, changed his shirt, and came out to sit in that chair, waiting for James to come home at 3:30. One afternoon, James asked, "Dad, why do you sit outside every day?" His father looked at him, smiled a little, said, "I'm waiting for you to come home." James nodded and ran inside to find something to eat. He did not think about that answer again for a long time. His father had built that chair himself the year James turned 6. James remembered watching him bring wood home from the workshop, cut each piece, smooth the edges, fit it all together. It took nearly a full week of evenings. James sat in the yard and watched without really understanding, just thinking it looked like something worth watching. When the chair was finished, his father carried it to the front of the house and set it beside the door. He sat down, shifted left, then right, nodded slowly. James asked, "Dad, why did you make that chair?" His father said, "So I have a place to sit and wait for you to come home every day." James laughed and ran off to play. He did not think about those words again, not for 32 years, not until tonight, standing at the end of the path in the cold Montana dark, looking at an empty chair. Those afternoons were ordinary when James was living them. He did not stop to notice them. He came home, dropped his bag by the door, grabbed something to eat, and went back outside to play with the kids down the road. His father sat in the chair a little longer, then went inside to start dinner. But James remembered small things now. His father always had a glass of water on the step beside the chair in case James was thirsty when he got home. On cold days, his father wore his heavy brown work jacket when he sat outside the one that smelled like sawdust. And when James was sick and stayed home from school, his father came home from work at noon to check on him, ate a quick lunch, and went back. He did not make a big thing of it. He just came. James had not thought about any of this for many years. Those memories had sat at the back of his mind, the way tools sit in the back of a drawer, still there, just not reached for. James grew up, finished high school in Millbrook, got into college in Portland, Oregon. In the fall, he turned 18. His father drove him to Portland 11 hours in the car, his father quiet for most of it, only speaking to ask if James was hungry or needed to stop. Before driving back, his father stood in the parking lot of the dormitory and looked at James for a moment. Then he said, "Study hard. Call if you need anything." James nodded, His father got in the car and drove away. During college, James came home every summer and every Christmas. Then, he graduated and moved to Seattle. The first few years he still came home for Christmas, sat at the table with his mother and father, talked about the city, slept in his old room one night, then left. Then one year he did not come because of a work project. The next year he came, but only for 3 days. After that, the visits grew further and further apart. He did not notice it happening slowly. He was just busy. There was always something. His mother died when James was 29. Suddenly, from her heart, James flew home right away and stayed 5 days to take care of the funeral. His father sat in the living room a lot those days. He did not talk much. He ate very little. James did not know what to say. He took care of what needed to be done, and then he flew back to Seattle. After that, his father lived alone. James called a little more often that first year, but slowly, the calls became less frequent again. His father always answered after one ring. His father always said he was fine. James believed him. What James did not know, after his mother died, his father still went out and sat in the old wooden chair every evening at 7 o'clock, alone. The sky grew dark around him. The street lights came on one by one down the road. The small dirt road was quiet, no children running into the yard, no footsteps coming from the end of the street. The oak tree at the corner stood still in the dark. No sound. Some evenings it was very cold. In Montana, winter comes early and stays long. Some nights the temperature dropped so low that the air hurt to breathe, but his father still went out. He put on his heavy brown work jacket, the one that smelled like sawdust, and he sat in the chair and looked at the street. He watched the road the way he had always watched it. Left, then right, then left again. As if someone might still turn the corner and walk toward the house, no one did. He sat there until 7:30, sometimes until 8. Then he went inside, turned off the porch light, and went to bed. The next evening, he went out again. 7 o'clock, same chair, same road. He did this for 9 years. He did not tell anyone. He did not think of it as something to tell. It was just what he did. The way some people take a walk after dinner or read before bed. His father sat in the chair at 7 o'clock and waited. That was all. Dorothy sometimes looked through her window and saw Robert out there in the dark. She did not go over to ask why. She just left her kitchen light on so he could see that someone was nearby. James knew none of this. His father never said a word. Then last month, his father fell in the bathroom. He lay on the floor alone for 2 hours before Dorothy came and knocked on the door. James brought his father home from the hospital that afternoon. His father walked more slowly than before. There was a small bruise on his right hand from the hospital needle, but he talked normally and could sit up on his own. The doctor said nothing was seriously wrong, just rest and be more careful. That night, his father went to bed early. James sat alone in the living room. The room looked exactly as he remembered. The same old brown sofa, the same clock on the wall, making a soft sound every hour. The same family photo on the shelf above the fireplace, taken when James was 12. His mother and father stood on each side, James in the middle, all three of them smiling. His father's hair was still dark in that photo. James looked around the quiet room. He did not want to turn on the television. He did not want to look at his phone. He walked over to the old wooden desk in the corner, the one his father had used for letters and papers since James was a boy. He opened the top drawer, looking for something to read. A newspaper, a magazine, anything. In the drawer there were a few old envelopes, a pen with no ink, and a small notebook brown cover, no name on it, about as thick as 2 fingers. James took it out. He opened it. It was not a diary. No long sentences, no feelings written out, no explanations, just short lines, each one a date and a few words. His father's handwriting was small and even, in blue ink. January 4, James did not call. Sat outside until 8. January 11, no call. Cold tonight. Came inside at 7:30. January 18, James called. 10 minutes. He sounded tired. James stood very still. He turned the page. February 2, no call. Sat outside until 7:30. February 14, no call. Dorothy brought soup. March 1, James called. 5 minutes. He said he was busy. He kept turning. More months. More years. Every evening his father wrote it down, whether James called or not, how long he sat outside, whether it was cold or warm. No complaints. No blame. Just a record. The way a farmer writes down the weather each morning. Calm, regular, without missing a day. James turned the pages slowly. He read each line. Some months had 30 entries, every single evening recorded. The handwriting never changed, small, even, blue ink, the same hand that had built this chair. The same hand that used to wave from the door when James walked down the road to school. On the days James had called, his father put a small star next to the line. James looked at those stars as he turned the pages. There were not many. He turned to the last page with writing. 3 days before his father fell. October 9th, no call. Sat outside until 7:15. Getting colder. James closed the notebook. He set it down on the desk very carefully, as if it might break. He looked through the living room window at the front yard. The old wooden chair stood out there in the dark. The porch light fell across it, making a long shadow on the ground. More than 9 years. Every evening at 7 o'clock. His father went out and sat in that chair, not waiting for something big, just waiting for the phone to ring, just waiting to hear his son's voice. James walked back to the sofa and sat down. The clock on the wall made its soft sound. He did not count how many times. He just sat there. The next morning, his father was up and moving around the house. James made eggs. He was not much of a cook, but eggs he could manage. They sat at the kitchen table together. Morning sun came through the window. His father held his coffee cup with both hands, the way he always had. James did not say anything about the notebook. He did not know where to start. He just sat across the table and ate and drank his coffee and looked at his father. His father's hair was fully white now. His hands were larger than James remembered the hands of a man who worked with wood for 40 years. There were lines around his eyes that had not been there the last time James had really looked at his father's face. James looked at him for a long time. He thought about the notebook in the desk drawer. He thought about the small stars in blue ink, spread thin across 9 years of pages. He ate his eggs. He said nothing about the notebook. In the afternoon, James went outside. He stood in front of the old wooden chair for a moment. The faded cushion, the armrests smooth and shiny from years of his father's hands resting there. Then he sat down in it. The wood was hard and cool. His father's chair, the chair his father built, so he would have a place to sit and wait. His father came to the door. He looked at James sitting there. He did not say anything. James looked out at the street, the small dirt road, the big oak tree at the corner. Dorothy's house across the way her kitchen light was on. James spoke without turning around. He said, "You built this chair yourself when I was 6. His father said, "That's right." A moment of quiet. Then his father stepped outside. There was no second chair. He sat down slowly on the front step, right beside the chair carefully, because his knee still hurt. The two of them sat there. They looked out at the street. They did not talk much. They just sat. That evening, James called his company and asked for more time. He stayed 10 more days. Every evening at 7 o'clock, they went outside together. His father in the chair, James on the step. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they watched the street grow dark and the lights come on, one by one, without saying anything at all. One evening, James asked quietly, not looking over, "Do you want me to come home more often?" His father did not answer right away. He looked out at the road. The Montana sky above them was very dark and very wide and full of stars. Then he said, "I don't need you to come home every night. I just need to know that you will come." James did not say anything. He looked up at the sky. After a while, he reached over and put his hand on his father's shoulder, just lightly. He left it there. His father put his hand over James's hand just for a moment. Then he let go. On the morning James went back to Seattle, his father walked him to the front door. It was early, frost still on the grass. The breath of both men came out in small white clouds in the cold air. James pulled his bag down the front path. He stopped at the old wooden chair, looked at it one more time, the faded cushion, the smooth armrests, the paint lifting off in small, dry pieces. He turned and looked at his father. Then he stepped forward and put his arms around him. His father stood still for 1 second, like he was not quite sure what to do. Then he raised his arms and held James. He patted James on the back, twice, slowly. The way he used to when James was small and fell down, and his father wanted to say, without any words, that everything was going to be all right. James let go. He picked up his bag. He walked to the car. Before he started the engine, he looked back through the window. His father stood at the front door, one hand on the door frame, watching, and the old wooden chair stood right beside him next to the door, facing the street the same as always. James started the car. He pulled out onto the road. At the corner, before he turned, he checked the mirror one last time. His father was still there, still watching. One hand on the doorframe, not waving, just standing. James turned the corner. The house disappeared from the mirror. He drove. The road was empty and straight and long. Montana in the early morning flatland, open sky, the sun just starting to come up over the hills far away. He did not turn on the radio. Maybe your father is sitting somewhere right now, waiting. He does not need you to come home every night. He just needs to know that you will come. The chair was still there, by the door, waiting.